Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Azure podcast with your hosts Sam Foote.
And Alan Armstrong.
If you're new here, we're a pair of Azure and Office 365 focused IT security professionals. Each episode, we talk about a specific topic in the space. This week, it's episode 12 of season 3. We're going to have a chat around the new Microsoft Intune suite, a set of tools that can help enhance your device management and support capabilities. Hey Alan, how are you doing this week?
Hey Sam, I'm not doing too bad. It's been a busy week. It seems like every week is busy at the moment. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do generally seem to say that, don't we? I've had a good week. I think that we've got some prep coming up for the Microsoft Secure event, which I believe is next Wednesday. Is that correct? I think it's next Wednesday.
Yep, that's right.
So a new event for Microsoft. So that'll be interesting. And apart from that, it's just been very very busy. But spring's here, which is good. So that's nice in the UK. Okay, Alan. So Intune, the new Intune suite. I'm gonna be asking questions to Alan because Alan is definitely closer to Intune than I am. That's for sure. And there's some new capabilities here and a new licensing SKUs. I'll say that. So let's jump right into it. So Alan, what is the new Intune suite, and what does it include?
Well, the new the new Intune suite is the new sort of as it says, the add-on to the Azure AD Premium, um, Intune Plan 1. So this is the first. I think this is probably the only product that doesn't have a Plan 2 with it, with extra enhancements. So it's finally got it. So the Intune suite is in effect includes Intune Plan 2, which we'll talk about, which has Microsoft Intune Tunnel for MAM, Mobile Application Management. That Plan 2 also has the Microsoft Intune management of specialty devices. And then the suite then includes, along with the P2, remote help, which we've seen for quite some time, as well as the new endpoint privilege management, advanced endpoint analytics, and two new capabilities that are coming in this year that aren't out yet, which is advanced app management and certification management.
Wow. So Intune is really sort of expanding its capabilities from just sort of one piece of technology, right? We're getting like a whole, well, as they've called it, a suite, group of products here and features.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Intune Plan 1, there was tons of capability in there, and there's so much that you can configure in there that it's been out for at least, like, I'll say 6 years in the new portal, 5-6 years in the new portal, before it was in the Silverlight portal, um, and that capability has just grown and grown, and now from a sort of mobile device management or app protection policies, MAM side of things, it's really mature now. There's a lot you can do. There's still improvements as technology, as Windows changes, as the operating systems change, and the controls can be added. But it's moving with the technology now. But I think quite a lot is there, and now they've got this enhanced sort of suite of tools that can help with all the sort of extra bits on top of the standard device management.
Yeah, it sounds great. So should we go through some of those capabilities? I think one that you mentioned was remote help. What does that sort of feature?
So remote help is the ability to, as it sounds, remote the endpoints, the Windows endpoints. So this allows you to have remote access. So in this world where we're hybrid working or full remote now, this gives the ability to be able to to in effect to remote the machines and give support directly. Um, Previously, there was an integration with um, TeamViewer app, but now Microsoft brought out their own. But TeamViewer and some of the I think LogMeIn and other products like that for remote support, potentially you can bring it all into one product now. So imagine the devices, and now you can just go to the device and go request remote help, or you can say give remote help, and they go through that same process. So it's very similar to that. It will also be coming to Android and Mac in future releases, and eventually iOS and probably the other platforms. But yeah, the kind of good things about this is that it has to it validates who you are and who's remoting in. So it's not just here's this number, help desk wants to connect kind of thing. It's going, hey, this is Alan from we'll say ITC Secure, and he's a senior consultant. He wants to have access, so you can almost validate the identity of that person as well, because they have to come from a Azure AD tenant. So it's not just Alan or anything like that. You can actually prove that the other person is the real person, because that's obviously a key part to potential attackers getting in, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're taking away a sort of attack vector for spear phishing, then, aren't you? Right? Because if you haven't got a just thinking like quick assist, right? We'll just use that as like the simple example. You use a code for that, don't you? You pass somebody a code, and it could well be that that could be taken advantage of, couldn't it? I'm not saying it's inherently insecure, but it does rely on the person who's requesting the assistance um, definitely understanding that they're giving that code to the right person, if that makes sense. So this fully integrated solution definitely sounds a positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's based on Quick Assist. I think I've not tested it out myself, but with the recent upgrades I've seen of Quick Assist and things like that, I think it's part of that. So it's just building on that
It
technology and just securing it a bit better.
it makes sense because it's part of every installation, right? There's nothing else to that technology's there. I suppose it's just the way that you request access to it, or gain access to that functionality. So no, that seems great. Okay, so another item that you mentioned was endpoint privilege management. Um, that kind of sounds a bit familiar to me in a different. We might have done an episode on something slightly similar in a different space. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, so this got released this month as the suite sort of got released. It's slightly later than the suite being announced, but this is a really cool feature. Well, I think it is anyway. This allows in traditionally, say you had developers. I'm going to say developers, IT admins, people that maybe want to have local admin because they have to install their own software because they're unique. And some of those scenarios are valid. If you're building, I'm guessing, when you're doing development, you've always got to update your latest version of code, and it might not be, the standard software that you have to install. There may be some applications that require admin access because that's the way they're designed. This, in effect, allows you. You've always got to have that decision when you build a device, especially as you're already joined devices. Where you've got to decide whether the user is going to be an admin or a standard user, and then you can't change in effect that without doing some using some of the Azure AD roles to in effect elevate that person, sort of. But this in effect gives you that ability to elevate a user on an application, and they can request access. So you're right, Sam. This is kind of going back to privileged identity management, sort of. This is just on the endpoints now. So this means that say you got an app, you need to install it. Previously, if you were a standard user, you had to try and run it, and it would say, no, you need admin access, and then you have to call up the help desk, get a ticket, wait for them to remote in, do that update, then leave you for that's it. It's all done. That's all great. And then maybe like 2 months down the line, you've got to go and update it. You've got to do the same process. This basically allows the user to either do it themselves, so in effect, self approval based on. I think you can base it on the applications themselves, but I have to confirm that because, like I said, it is pretty new. Or they have to request access, and it goes to the Intune portal, and then you can approve it. And every time you elevate, you've got to give your justification. Why do you want to elevate? So that's all audited as well. So I think it's a really good idea to reduce that local admin on machines scenario on Azure AD join devices, and reduce that attack. I guess it is an attack vector, because they, in effect, if someone tries to compromise the machine, the user just local. There's no way to elevate.
Yeah, that's because I suppose when you're talking about making the decision about whether a user is an admin or not, your permissions creep there is kind of crazy, really, isn't it? Because you can effectively do whatever you want, whenever you want, right? Which is good for flexibility, right? But in terms of sort of control and you know um uh, you know permissions creep, it's not the best solution for that. So what I like about this, and it's kind of the same reason, privileged identity management, PIM, why PIM is so powerful, is because it allows you to gain access to these privileged roles, and it does interrupt your user experience, definitely, because you have to go through the process. But it's definitely better than having to, as you say, like raise a ticket and then bother somebody from IT, or as an example, and like you say, it might be that um certain users, um you know all users are in scope to be able to elevate up, but some require, some are self justification, and others need um remote approval, right? So it seems amazing to me, right? It seems to stand out, like, you know definitely.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about when do you actually need local admin rights? You don't need it 24/7. Even with I can't see it most times. There may be some scenarios, but generally in your day to day, apart from maybe installing that piece of software that you need to install on your own hardware, or
Yeah,
update an app or something.
I only think that the only people that could, some developers could argue against that, and only because some development software does require you to run as an administrator, right? But if you could elevate into admin for, say, 8 hours, right, to do your work, you know right, because it might not be that every single day you
I,
need to run that software, right?
so so I believe it's on launch of an application that you do it. So if you launch that application, you stay in it all day, then
Okay.
you
Yeah.
don't you don't lose it, kind of thing. It's only on
Yeah,
launch, I
and
think.
yeah, because for, let's say you needed to run, like, PowerShell ISE in admin mode all day. Let's say that's, that was your use case, right? But you've also got to think about all the other processes that you may not want certain users to be able to actually run, because you're saying it's on a per application basis, right? So it's like, you've gone through self elevation for PowerShell, and then, let's say another random process spawns and it goes to elevate to admin. Let's say that's a malicious process, then that can be captured, can't it? Right? Because you're not just going to get, what's it called, like the screen that pops up, to do the admin. Oh, I can never remember what it's
It's
called.
the it's
You know what I mean? Like,
UAC, isn't it? It's the UAC prompt.
UAC, you do UAC prompt, yeah, right. So it's not this. I'm guessing is an enhanced UAC prompt, right? Which is like, UAC. Oh, and now we want you to provide justification for what you're going to do, right? So it's not just a case of, you know. So to me, like, that doesn't seem like that much of an impact to somebody's day to day. Like you say, if you can. do it and do it. Can you do it for 8 hours? Is it the same as PIM?
I I don't know if it's time based or where it's application launch based. We'd have to double check.
Okay.
Because the way the scenarios I've seen is that they launch an application, then it asks you to give your justification and things like that. It's not necessarily can I have
Okay.
admin for 8 hours sort of thing. So the idea is actually it's potentially better than that because it's saying I need to go and run this PowerShell script. I mean, one good example is that we talked about Quick Assist, and recently the Quick Assist was moved into the store, and the update recently, or I say recently, a couple of months ago, if not a bit more, required admin access to actually update it. Now, IT admins had to go round and update it for users because it needed elevating. Even I think it was Windows updates couldn't even do it. It needed admin. This would fix that scenario.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No. Definitely. It sounds like a great bit of functionality for sure. Well thought about. Definitely.
Yes.
Okay. So another area that you mentioned was advanced endpoint analytics. Kind of sounds quite obvious from its name, but can you take us through that?
So this is a sort of step up on endpoint analytics, and if anyone doesn't know what that is, in effect, you can get some as it sounds, analytics about the endpoints um, into Intune as part of the P1, and this gives you information like what's the average startup time for all your devices. Does this device have what's this startup time for this device? How many crash? Is there any crashes on the machines and things like that? So you can easily understand a user experience with their devices. Is it taking a minute to boot up? What's the then you can start investigating, and that's been really good because then you can see well actually all of this this model have got problems. Maybe it's a driver problem. Let's go and check it out, sort of thing. Um, but advanced analytics in effect gives you the ability to then scope some of your your sort of your analytics so that you can specify into different groups. So you can say that maybe you've got like a finance team. So you want to see how the finance teams devices are working. Maybe the execs, the C-suite. You'll make sure that their machines are running super fast, so they don't log calls and things like that. Um, Not saying that they are yeah not not as what do I say
Be
concerned
careful,
about how
Al.
fast their stuff is. Um, but yes, you've got stuff like that. You can also it also sort of detects anomalies as well. So this is looking at the health of the device is actually okay, and then all of a sudden it starts like all of a sudden the machine starts being slow on boot, like I said, or this application starts to hang. It will then give you that sort of intel about how what other devices are seeing the same problem. Is it a certain manufacturer or model, things like that. So I think that's kind of right. It's kind of being a bit more proactive with your support at that point. Detecting the problem before it happens. Um, and the other part to it really is just an enhanced timeline. So you can see even a device's sort of statistics for a longer period of time. So you can see that maybe over the year you can see it's improved or it's degraded maybe. So that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that seems great. And it's I like the idea of preventative maintenance over reactive, maintenance for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always yeah, as you said, in the world we're in today, where everything's remote and things like that. Trying to pick something up before someone's devices causes a problem, and you have to go out to their device as it's died. Um, it might be a quick trip around the corner. It might be across the country.
Yeah, or even across the world, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's crazy. Okay, another area was Microsoft Tunnel for Man.
Yes. So this is sort of an add-on to the Microsoft Tunnel. capability that you can get with mobile device management. This is actually bringing a lightweight version to mobile application management ability. So this is bring your own devices, in effect, bringing a Microsoft tunnel to it without any sort of install, which is quite an interesting one. So this is, as Microsoft kind of say, it's like a micro VPN to connect to corporate resources. So this might be, um, maybe you got Outlook or your Microsoft Office tools, or even actually Microsoft Edge, being able to access internal resources directly. So maybe you've got an internal application that's a web-based app, the intranet, the support desk system. Maybe it is, maybe you can only access it when you're on the network. Um, this allows you to basically use those URLs and then go over this lightweight VPN tunnel just for that application, those applications, to your corporate resources, which is the next step, I guess, in MAM, and bring your own device, because really, the only way you do that is by running a VPN, and you don't really want to run a VPN on a personal device because everything goes via the corporate network. So there's a whole privacy scenario and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, well, if you have to, guarantee, maybe you're regulated or under a compliance framework where you have to guarantee secure connectivity to, data, right? I can imagine, with it's a challenge to have the flexibility of bring your own in a highly regulated, field potentially.
Mhm.
So being able to, attest that, you know, there is VPN capability built in at the application level, not the operating system level, right? Is
Yeah.
like, you know, pretty powerful in terms of, privacy and security, right? Because we already see those Microsoft applications being sandboxed, completely isolated on the devices, right? Now this is how that, that environment then punches out back to your environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in scenarios where the in previous lives where the application was on the store, but you had to access, had to in effect connect to the back end system, which was on your corporate network. So you had to have VPNs for the whole device, things like that. This makes that easy. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't forget that with mobile application management, you can integrate that technology into any application as a developer. So if you have got a third party you're working with, and they've got MAM capability, or you can request it, because I think it's only, I say it's only, I've never looked at it, but I think it's an SDK that you can in effect add to it, which then enlightens the app, which then allows it to be able to be signed in and things like that. So adding that piece of technology into your app then means you can in effect have that tunnel, if you've got the licensing. So I think that's
Yeah.
really, really, I, I see. I mean, I don't see any uses for me, because we kind of are quite lightweight, but definitely for like field workers, and things like that, where they're out and about and maybe they want to carry two phones. They've only got one phone, and organisations are trying to save maybe some money, by bring your own. Um, Definitely a good way to bring cost savings, as well as bringing security to those applications.
Yeah, because bring your own it must be much more popular on the mobile side, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, um the assumption that somebody else would have a smartphone, you know, um, is probably a lot higher than somebody, you know, going and buying a personal or having a personal laptop or device, to actually do bring your own on an endpoint, right? So this is the next stage in that evolution of that sandboxing, isn't it? And like you say, if you could trade, the capital expenditure of a mobile device plus the ongoing, you know, um, SIM cards and data costs and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know what the average cost of a yearly cost of a device is, plus provisioning it and all of those things, right? And delivering it and X, Y, and Z. It must be hundreds, if not hundreds and hundreds of pounds, even with cheap or cheaper Android devices, right? So
Yeah,
you,
yeah. I
you
mean,
take that
there's
all out of the picture, don't you?
yeah, and there's also the stance of and then this is my view of it anyway, is that when a user uses their own device, they look after it because they don't want to pay out for another one. When
Yeah.
they have a corporate device, they tend to look after it, but if it breaks, if I drop it, yeah, it is what it is, sort of thing. There's less.
It's not your responsibility, is it? That
Correct.
device,
Yeah,
somebody
yeah. And if
else's
it dies, I
responsibility.
either get a new one or I won't get another one. Whatever it is, sort of thing. When it's your personal device, it's that's it, it's gone. So hardware seems to last longer with less issues, sort of thing. So
Yeah, and I guess in a smaller organization, you have, well, in most organizations you have the issues of, like, if you're an iOS user and you're given an Android work phone, and if
hmm
you're an Android user and you're giving an i an iOS device, right? You've not only got your personal preferences in terms of what you want to use, but also learning and understanding how that device works, and how to, you know, maybe the security implications of different types of devices. So I think it feels like a much more positive way to keep people on devices that they know and understand, and like you say, um, not tarnishing everybody with a brush, but like that they will respect more, because ultimately it's their responsibility. The condition and of that device. So yeah, it definitely seems like a complete win, because then you're only like IT, like overhead then is the actual apps themselves working, right? If the phone doesn't update to the latest version of Android for some reason, that's not a help desk ticket at that point, is it? You don't have to worry about especially you don't have to worry about like the TVM and updating it and patching it and all of that sort of stuff, right? You just stick conditional access on it and like job done, isn't? Is that
yeah, I
basically it?
mean
Yeah.
with MAM, you can obviously add some checks around the version of Android and things like that, so you can at least do a sanity check on it to make sure it's close to up to date and things like that. So at least that you're not trying to run it on a 2 or 3 year old Android um, sort of thing. But just going back on the sort of people look after their devices, it's kind of slightly off topic, but um, it's the same thing with when you do zero touch deployments. When you send an iPhone, as an example, we send an iPhone directly to the user, and it automatically, when they turn it on, it says, "Right, welcome to company A. Please sign in," and there you are. It's that first sort of, it's just come out of the fresh box, and then they have that feel of like, well, I've just got a brand new device, I need to look after it as well, rather than it being something that's like potentially seems like secondhand just because IT have opened it, kind of thing. So it's not, doesn't feel new.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. Another area was advanced app management.
Advanced app management, yes. So this is one of the ones that is coming this year, and it's suggested that it's going to come in May 2023. Now this is very interesting, and I say that because obviously within Intune you can deploy applications, things like that. Um, but this advanced app management is being able to automatically patch third party applications on, I believe, just Windows initially. Um, this looks at potentially vulnerabilities in the software and being able to auto patch it. So I think there's going to be a tie in possibly with Defender for Endpoint, so that if something is flagged as um, having vulnerabilities or being out of date, then you can flag it in Defender for Endpoint to be patched by Intune as quick as possible, sort of thing. That's what I believe, or what I hope is going to come. But yeah, bringing out to automatically patch third-party software is going to be a big thing for Windows. It's the hardest thing to do to keep up with it. There are tools out there, but this is bringing it into one place again. Deploy deploy Adobe Reader, and then tell it to make sure it's up to date for you. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be great.
Management of specialty devices.
So this is a bit of a weird. I don't think it's a weird one, but I was trying to understand what it meant by that. What specialty devices? Um, it turns out it's everything, but a PC. And I say that because it's talking about devices like your large smart screen devices like 30-inch, over 30 inches in size. So your smart TVs potentially, your augmented reality and virtual reality headsets. So I think it can actually manage the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro. I don't know in what way, but to check its software, make sure it's up to date, so you can actually manage it that way. This is around conference room devices. Um, yeah, so and it's just all your audio conferencing stuff, your wearables, your potentially your Apple Watch, maybe. I mean, I don't even know how that's going to work, but yeah.
Well, I suppose if you, I suppose all of these, we'll call them like IoT-ish devices. Let's call them like they're not IoT, speciality devices, right?
Yeah.
Like a VR headset, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So we've obviously got the Meta Quest Pro, haven't we? Which has got the full. I think even Microsoft were part of the keynote with its integration with Teams, right? So I assume is that a replacement for HoloLens? Don't know, right? But if we think about those residing in the enterprise, they do kind of need to be managed, don't they? Because effectively, like a Meta Quest Pro is like a computer strapped to your head, isn't it? With a set of screens. It's got advanced like capability. It's got cameras. It's got ports on it. It's got the ability to because my assumption is if if one of the new working like practices is to use a VR headset all day to do your work, how do you access your email? How do you access Teams? How are those devices managed? Are they compliant? Things like that, I suppose. So management of them must be quite a challenge because you've got maybe multiple or even tens of different vendors, right? So I assume devices that do they have to support Intune? I assume they have to be like Intune certified or something like that. I don't know how that would work, right?
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
so maybe that's a play there to grab these specialty devices that would traditionally be managed by the actual vendors themselves, but bringing them in as part of Intune, right, and keeping them there so that you can actually observe them, right? Maybe just from a TVM perspective, is your MetaQuest Pro on the latest version of the software because the last piece of software had 15 high severity CVs on it, you know?
Yeah, I guess that Intune has always been able to manage the Surface hubs and things like that. First party side of things, because obviously they're kind of based on Windows anyway. But they are first party. This is probably
Yeah.
bringing in that third party hardware into the
Yeah.
fold. Um,
Well, yeah, well, Microsoft, with my work on Defender for IoT, they do like really push the point that these I'll call them specialty devices slash IoT devices are almost the most dangerous in the enterprise because they sit on networks that have important assets on them and they are generally managed manually or just completely forgotten about. Static assets just sitting there waiting for to be attacked and used for lateral movement. In the organization. You have some devices that are connected that bridge multiple networks and things like that. We've seen it with like AV equipment that bridges multiple networks. And it's like that's kind of scary. From those types of devices. So, but this seems like a different class, like above IoT. It's like well, speciality devices like TVs, because traditionally like TVs have been part of like enterprise IoT, haven't they? But like if you bought a smart TV that was integrated with Intune, because it is effectively just an Android box, isn't it? It's
Some
effectively
are,
like a massive
yes.
Android TV. Well, yeah, there's different operating systems, obviously, but some are like just massive tablets, aren't they? So why wouldn't you manage it in the same way as you manage a tablet?
Yeah,
Don't know. It's interesting.
even just gathering the information, isn't it, about it, so you can understand your risk and things like that as well.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah,
you're able to
because
actually
yeah, yeah,
do some lockdown on it is a bonus, I think. But being able to
yeah,
see
because
just
like
the raw data.
yeah, traditional like network based stuff and like even Defender for IoT, it's looking at the outside view of a. There's no agent on the actual IoT device,
Mm.
right? So this might be a play in that speciality space because there is the ability to maybe put an agent on it and to actually MDM it. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. Definitely. Okay, and then cloud certificate management.
Yes, this is another interesting one. So this isn't out until the second half of this year, 2023. This is so if anyone's using it, and quite a few people will be, certificates for your VPN and Wi-Fi. So to be able to do device-based or user-based certificates, you usually have to have a certificate server PKI that's on your domain, and you use the connectors from Intune to in effect go and get those keys or get the certificates on those devices, so you can connect to the VPN and Wi-Fi's. But I guess the issue that's always been with that is that you've got to know what you're doing with PKIs, the certificate servers. You got to understand that you got to keep maybe the root offline and only turn on when you need to renew the certificates, or and you've got to make sure they're all the certificates don't expire and all that sort of stuff. From the roots and the intermediates. This is Microsoft in effect providing you that service in the cloud, because you may only have a PKI just to do those VPNs and stuff, and you've got to manage that manage that service within internally, which can be quite um, time consuming and quite a high risk, because if someone compromises those certificates, then they can potentially get into your VPN from anywhere, sort of thing. So this looks like it's going to be within Intune, and then it can in effect dish out those certificates for you to your devices, and then there be a root key or intermediate key that you can download from your portal specific to you, and this is assumptions at this point, that then you provide to your VPN service or your Wi-Fi as the to trust to be able to validate that certificate. So I think it's going to be that's going to be a big help once that comes out, um, definitely, because it means you can get rid of some of those on-premise services and start moving further into cloud managed services.
Yeah, because I suppose the overhead of running that infrastructure on prem is probably quite high in terms of a human and resource cost, right? So, and I assume this is the maturity of distributing certificates now, expanding the capability in Intune to do it. Because could you upload you could upload a certificate to Intune before, couldn't you? If you just completely managed it like manually yourself, couldn't you? They could.
you you can push up root certificates and things like that to be deployed to the devices, but if you wanted to have a per user certificate, you had to then hook up to a PKI server and do
Got it. Okay.
um,
Yeah.
PKCS and NDES um, capabilities to be able to pull that certificate up into Intune to then distribute to the device.
Right. Okay. I see. Yeah. No. So that makes sense. So this part of it is completely new functionality that was only available in say third party products and on prem before. Right. So yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how they're going to do it, but I do wonder if they're going to hook it up to a key vault to manage them.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like the right place for it to go.
But if you don't see it, it's probably going to be a key vault anyway,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. Okay, thanks for taking us through those features, Alan. There seems like there's a lot in there, to be totally honest with you. Now, it feels like, does it feel like, well, it feels like to me that Intune is now sort of, it's not just one or two, even though that to say Intune was one or two things before is probably the pretty unfair because of the amount of
Yeah,
functionality, you know, those, you know, because what did it do before MDM and MAM, right?
yeah,
Before.
and zero touch configuration, autopilot, device
Yeah.
configuration. Yeah, it's
So
loads.
it was all application delivery and device configuration before, wasn't it? But now we're starting to see these like operational capabilities coming into Intune, right? You know, visibility, discovery, support, monitoring, those different types of things. It seems
Yeah,
like a
it's
really good expansion of
yeah,
capability.
yeah, it's in effect bringing some of the, I guess, in the background you can kind of see it as being enhancements to new features, but also there's some automation coming in to reduce the amount of effort you need to person power you need for it, to do some of that manual stuff like the advanced app management, or the advanced analytics, or the enterprise privilege management stuff. That could save loads of time, and probably will be worth the cost of the suite or the add-ons, etc.
Okay, nice segue into my next question, and one we always ask or try to ask is so. What about pricing? What's the deal? There seems like there's a lot of capability here.
Yes, so there is various ways that you can get this. Some people may be pleased to know that you can't get it in an E5 at the moment. But so just for context, the Intune Plan 1 was around $8 a month. So that was sort of the base for all that capability that we've had today. Um, so Intune Plan 2, which gives you the management of specialty devices and the Microsoft Tunnel for MAM, in that is $4. Um, you can then get add-ons for the other bits, and some of the pricing isn't out yet because they haven't released it, or it's coming soon. So an add-on for remote help is $3.50 per user per month. The endpoint privilege management is $3 per user per month. So again, you can be quite granular about who you give that to. So maybe you do have only a subset of users that need admin, or not all the time, but maybe you want to reduce that risk for them. So we can be quite granular with that. Excuse me. Um, and then we don't know about advanced analytics, advanced app management, or certificate one, because some of them are coming soon and they haven't released it. But the Intune suite, which includes the add-ons plus the Intune Plan 2, is suggested to be $10 per month per user. So I think once those other bits come in, I think that's going to be killer. It's going to be worth the money. Whether in large organizations it makes sense to, because it's going to be quite a large cost increase. Don't get me wrong, but I think for the amount of capability there and time saving, and ensuring that your applications are secure and things like that, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if that suite pricing changes with the extra functionality, right? Or maybe that's why they've announced the functionality so early. Because maybe it's to sort of justify the $10 for people to start adopting those technologies and springing for the suite. Because you still make a saving, right? If you're going to use remote help for everybody and endpoint privilege management for everybody, makes sense to go suite, right? It's cheaper.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. If you're going to have the Intune Plan 2 with it, yeah. And the Microsoft documentation for pricing does, they've got like the 3 columns. Well, they've got 4 columns. It's no 3 columns. Sorry, Intune. No, four is for Intune add-on, um, Intune Plan 2, and Intune Suite. And those new capabilities, as talked about, the two new that are coming, were ticked under the suite. So they're
Okay.
suggesting
Yeah.
it would be included. It's not like it's not talked about.
Exactly. Yeah, because if people are deciding like maybe their yearly license cadence, right? They might start to think about those capabilities when they're looking at renewing, right? Because they might just go, we might as well just go for Intune Suite because we're going to need certificate. We want to get rid of on-prem certificate management, and we might as well just go for Suite because it's going to be added, this year, right?
Yeah, and it's great that they're doing the add-ons on their own as well, because like I said, with endpoint
Yeah,
privilege management, you can selectively target your users that need it, and same with remote help. Maybe you've got users that are in the office, so you don't need it because you can just walk around the corner to them. But you've got that team in another region of the world. Yeah, let's chuck that help on there, sort of thing.
yeah, definitely, yeah. So you can, and Microsoft's usually, to the sort of detriment of us, because it gets quite complicated sometimes working out like what the best thing is for a customer. But what I do like that Microsoft does is it does give you the flexibility to chop and change. Like you say, you might only need endpoint privilege management for 5% of your workforce, right? Like it might even be less than that, because you might have, IT developers, because everybody else is just non-admin anyway, right? And it just doesn't matter. So um, yeah, very, very, very interesting. And what's interesting about these changes is that except for the specialty devices, everything. Well, I still think that's a big thing anyway. Everything else is so valuable. Like you can see the use cases straight away with them, can't you? Right?
Yeah.
They all make sense, don't they? There's nothing that's like odd with them. You know. So
No, and I think the specialty devices for us, because we don't work in that space where we have to manage those type of devices, so we
yeah,
don't see as much value in that as the other parts, because most of it, the other stuff is around securing or support in IT in general, not necessarily I've got to manage 100 quests because I in a team of VR, or I've got
yeah,
devices
definitely,
that
yeah,
are
yeah,
my it could be as simple as you're running a an arcade that has these quests. You do sessions or something, and you need to manage them, make sure up to date, and whatever. It could be as simple as that from from that sort of perspective. So yeah, it's
amazing,
it's really it's really good.
yeah.
I've been watching this since Ignite because they sort of announced it, and the first sort of stance of it was, oh, we've got another suite of products that we've got to pay for, sort of thing. But when you dive into it, you're like, actually, some of this stuff is really cool, and actually, it will help me a lot with one, security, but two, just time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it seems really exciting. This product, so it's going to be interesting to see, to put some of those that functionality into practice and see how valuable it really is. But it does sound like a really good start for sure.
Yeah. Okay, then. So thanks for everyone for listening for that. Hopefully, it caught everything we needed. So, Sam, what is our next episode?
Okay, so I'm going to be talking around Azure Static Web Apps. So yeah, if you build web applications that are based on sort of static SPA and sort of technologies, say React, Next.js, Angular, Vue.js, and there's absolutely tons of them. So we won't try and go through all of them. If you're using that, there are many sort of third-party systems to host static web apps. But Microsoft have an offering called Static Web Apps, which is, in my opinion, pretty powerful. It's quite nicely integrated as well. So I'll be taking us through that solution, and hopefully it should be valuable to everybody.
Great. Look forward
Um,
to hearing that.
yeah, thanks, Ellen. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do consider subscribing if you'd like to listen to more of this sort of content in the future. We have many more topics that we like to cover, and your listens and support is what will continue to fuel the podcast going forward.
We also have the ability for you to give us some feedback. Did you enjoy this episode? Um, is there anything I missed? Is there anything you want us to go into more detail with? Um, there's a link in the show notes to our contact page. as well as on that contact page, you can leave us a voice message in the bottom right corner. So yeah, we'd love to hear
Ex-
from you.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Alan, for your great explanation of Intune Suite, and I'll catch everybody on the next one.
Yep. Thanks everyone, and speak to you soon. Bye.